Welcome to the first podcast of 2025. We're the WisMissus. We are reading, writing, and roaming around Wisconsin, the Midwest, and beyond. I'm Valerie Biel, and I'm here with my co-host.
My name is T.K. Sheffield, and I write funny, cozy mysteries that are called the Backyard Model Mysteries, and they are The Devil Wears Prada meets a Wisconsin supper club.
So first, today, we wanted just to talk a little bit about how our hearts are going out to everybody in California. I mean, we've had so much devastation across the country in the last few months with different natural disasters. Obviously, the most recent one are the fires in California. And we, TK and I both are members of the Blackbird Writers. So I've got my Blackbird Writer shirt on today. But one of our dear members, Anne Louise Bannon, and her husband lost their home. They lived in Altadena, California. And we've just been watching as they had evacuated and hoping for the best, praying for the best for them. And unfortunately, their home is gone. Their whole neighborhood is gone. I mean, as you all know from the news, blocks and blocks and blocks of homes are just devastated and destroyed. So, I've been a little distracted by that. I've been, working on my current book off and on, doing all kinds of other work for clients. I know you're writing a new book too, as well. Yes. It's hard though, right? Like when we're kind of watching the news and I mean, clearly, we're so far away, we can't jump in and really help, but our hearts go out to them and we're thinking about them as we, begin this new year.
As we begin this new year and we understand, we can't fathom what's going on, but we can understand the sense of loss. And our hearts go out to you. We both have donated, and sometimes what you need to do is escape. If you have time to write and get away from it, put down your feelings, record them on a phone in the moment if you can, and sometimes that helps.
Yeah, somebody wrote something that was beautiful, and Anne shared it on her Facebook page, and it was, did you see that today? And it was somebody talking about breathing in the smoke out there, and then they realized they were breathing in, oh gosh, it was so poignant, the memories of everyone, like your favorite cashmere sweater, the couch you got from grandma, your wedding dress, all these things that you just, like when they evacuate, you grab your most important things. And I had a discussion with my husband about this and my daughter too. What you have, say you have 5 minutes, and a lot of these people really didn't have much time because those fires move so incredibly fast. What would you grab? And okay, your most important papers, like, oh, passport, birth certificates, this stuff that's just a pain in the butt to replace, right? IDs, medications, your pets, your kids, your pets,
pets and children.
Grab your children, grab your pets. But like possession wise, what would you grab? And I'm like, well, I'd grab anything from my work in progress that are my notes that aren't in a computer. Grab your computers, right? Your electronics that you're using. There was one lady who said, I grabbed all these things that were kind of random and I forgot my jewelry. She didn't remember. And, it's just that panic. And I just thought that was an interesting exercise to think, like, what would I grab if I had like 5 minutes to get out of my house? So, yeah, so it's, we're starting the year not in such a, great place, hopeful place, I suppose, that we hope it will just get better from here.
If there's anything you can say, it's people are very resilient. California is a beautiful place, and it's the city of angels. It's the city of angels, right? So believe in it if you can. Believe that you're going to be okay. Not better. I'm just saying you're going to be okay.
And I think a lot of people, we're seeing so many people step forward already to help. So in a way, we've got this big serious thing happening. It's close to us too because of the fellow writer. So we're starting the year in kind of like this spot where we're looking forward to, better things, hopefully for everyone. We planned out a little bit what we want to talk about this year, at least in the first few episodes. And we wanted to deep dive into indie publishing and the indie publishing process. And I think we figured we'd do 4 episodes, but now I'm kind of thinking maybe 5 episodes. So
we may add a little, and I'm so excited about this because I feel like we're meeting writers and potential, wannabe authors where they're at.
Yes.
Because there are a lot of questions. The industry is changing quickly. There are so many outlets there for you to access publishing, but where do you start? So I feel like this is the perfect time for this. And with your knowledge and your expert knowledge of marketing, plus publishing and my experience in it, I'm not an expert, but I certainly have experience in it now.
Oh, you're an
After
expert now.
But I feel like we can meet people where they're at and we can answer some of the basic questions that they may have through this series of podcasts. And we also have some really fun things coming too in the fall that we just talked about. So
Yeah, we were having a little brainstorming before we got going with the recording. So, actually, and I don't know if I told you this, our most popular podcast last year was the pros and cons of indie publishing. It wasn't surprising because I think that people are just hungry for knowledge in this area because they're feeling roadblocked in the traditional publishing, path. They're just not getting where they wanted to be, and they're frustrated.
and they're
So,
frustrated. And I'm glad that we can do this because we can offer ideas, we can give feedback about our experience, and we can also offer ways that are affordable for people.
right.
Because you can get sucked into paying subscriptions and buying things and and before long you have spent far more money than you're ever going to make on your first book.
It's
And
yes.
so that's where we can really help people.
And it's very possible. And I know people who have done that. So we're going to walk through all of our steps that we took. There are some things that I do recommend buying the service if you
Yes.
don't have someone who can help. So we're going to talk about those things. We're going to talk about hybrid publishing in the next podcast. We're going to dive into that, what that means. It's confusing, I think, to a lot of people. Maybe we start with definitions a little
Okay.
bit. So, hybrid publishing is one thing that people get confused with hybrid authors versus hybrid publishing. Hybrid authors are authors who have done both paths. They have traditionally published in some way. Maybe that's with a big press, like a big traditional house, one of the big five, or maybe they've done it with like a university press or a smaller press, and they've done independent or self-publishing. And then on the other side of things, I always say indie publishing or independent publishing, and that is synonymous with self publishing. And so that gets confusing when people hear indie publishers, for instance.
Mhm.
And those would just be the small presses that are independent of those bigger traditional houses. At least
Right.
that's how I understand the definition. Do you agree? Am I right with
Yes,
that?
I agree. Yes.
Okay.
And in terms of indie, I also would like to break that down. There, you can have an indie publisher who wants to put down their stories for their family, and
Mhm.
they don't want to sell on a larger platform, but they want to have a nice book that is edited with a nice cover that they can hand down to family. And then you have people who are indie who do want to enter the commercial side of it and sell books on Amazon or Ingram or something like that. So I feel like there's an A and B of the indie side too.
I think so. And then there's also all the subsets in there, which
Yes.
is what are your skills? Can you create your own book covers or do you need to hire that? Can you
Right.
can you do your own editing? Most of us need help with that just because we don't
Yeah.
see our own mistakes. Do you know how to format your own books? And we're going to kind of walk through all the possibilities there and even the costs generally, like what might it cost if you hire someone or what should it cost? Because there's a lot of shady folks in this space. And that's the thing that I want our podcast audience to avoid. If anything, we help one person through this series
Yes.
avoid spending money on, unnecessarily on services that shouldn't cost what they're being, what they're spending on them, or some odd situations that occur with people who are just not legit business.
Right. And if there's a takeaway I can offer for today, it would be find writer beware and follow them. Because if you're new to this, get to know what can happen to you. For example, you can be taken advantage of. Follow writer beware. And
Mhm.
then before you spend big dollars, I would do your research first. That's
Right, right.
because most of the time, and this is a generalization, but a lot of times you can go to a hybrid publisher, if you will, and they will sell you a package, but most of the time they're going to say no marketing.
Right. They most of the time will not do marketing, or
Right.
they might have a second marketing package. Often that feels very nebulous,
Right.
where you're not really sure what you're going to get back. We can talk about that too, because there's certain things in the publicity or promotions area where it's very hard to calculate tangible sales from it, but there are also good activities to do, like social media stuff and things that it's good to have a presence out there. So we're really just gonna walk through our whole experience. I wanted to also mention, I did a quick list of traditional publishers that also now have an independent publishing component to their companies. They've named them something else. They're off to the side. And I'll create this list and put this in our show notes. There are a lot of traditional publishers out there that realize that they're missing out on a little chunk, a slice of the economy here. And even though on the one side of things, they're roadblocking authors because they only have so much space on their list.
Speaking of that, since you brought it up,
Uh-oh.
again, if you're looking for nuggets of information from this, I listened to the Author Media Novel Marketing Podcast by Thomas Umstattd Jr. It's the oldest book marketing podcast out there, he says. There was a lawsuit with Penguin Random House last year. That was his #1 podcast last year. And some information that was revealed was publishers only spend 2% of their revenue on marketing. 19% of books published by the big 5 houses sell a dozen copies or fewer. Publishers rarely negotiate on royalty rates, leading many to speculate about market collusion. That's from his podcast. You can go right straight to his podcast and read it for yourself. So given that in the industry, taking control over your author journey is something I chose to do. And I know, Val, you chose to do that as well.
Right. And we were very transparent about why we chose to do that. We were talking a little bit about me sharing, like more than a year ago now. I was at the tail end of my agent search because I thought, I want to know what I could possibly do here. Let's give it one more try. And I'd previously been agented, so it's not like I was new to that, world. But my books hadn't sold with that agent. So then I was trying for a new agent with a new manuscript, and I was hitting a dead end. And we were talking about too that both of us have had fairly good success so far with these books. Our readers are enjoying them. We're getting good reviews. We're getting award wins and nominations. Clearly, we've written something worthy of that seal of approval, if you will.
As we talked earlier, you are, the quintessential candidate for an agent to be interested in. You're an expert book marketer. You know a ton of people. You guest blog. You guest host. You're out there, you're well known, you've been in the industry for quite a while, and you wrote fabulous books that if you go look at them, the reviews are stellar, and you're getting awards and nominations of awards for these books. Now, if you're not getting picked up by an interested agent, I just find that to be, I'm frustrated for you, and I'm frustrated for the industry, because I feel like if anyone should have been able to have that kind of success, it would have been you. And so, but again, we chose to take control of our author journey. And that to me is what indie publishing is
Right.
you decide, look, I'm not getting any younger. I know that was a factor between both of us. If we would have had more time, just because you get an agent, you could go on sub and still get rejected. So you've wasted 2 more years waiting for that. And then
Easily.
if you're picked up, then it's another year at least for a release. So you're looking at potentially 3 more years of waiting before your book comes out. And if you're 40, that's one thing, but if you're 60, that's another. And so I feel like this podcast and what we're doing this spring is really helpful to people who have chosen, I'm going to make an author journey that I'm proud of and that readers can enjoy and produce a quality book.
Yes, exactly. And we both know so many other authors out there who are still on this journey, very hopeful. And I hope that for the best for anyone who is watching us, listening to us, but also still holding out the hope for that traditional contract, the agent, and then the traditional contract. Great. Awesome. And I felt like I needed to do that just so that I wouldn't say, I wonder if maybe whatever, like I could have. But to be honest, I think in the end, it's hard to say, but a lot of times you don't get an enormous advance. Holding on to 100% of my royalties may make more money on these books than I would have made if I had published, particularly with a small press.
And
So
if they take your audio rights.
that's right. And they don't always produce the audio.
Right. You can, for example, if they're not negotiating on a contract and the contract says, you know what, we're going to hold the audio rights 100% of your
Yeah.
audio.
Yep. And
To me,
I think I may have been, so let's think about this. I might not have been the best client just because I would have been like really a stickler on negotiation and be like, hey, if they don't produce my audiobook in so many months, then I want rights reverted back to me. If this happens, I want rights reverted back to me. You know what I mean? Like all those things that I've seen
right,
other authors struggle with when their traditional publishing house has not acted in good faith all the time.
right.
So it's just, yeah, it's an interesting world out there. And you mentioned that whole Penguin Random House thing. That was sort of like a whole Wizard of Oz moment where the curtain got pulled back and we saw, all the machinations behind the curtain, behind the scene. So in a way, that was kind of crazy, but it also really confirmed things we suspected, but also taught us a lot about what the industry looks like. And they did not want to be talking about these things
No.
in this. I mean, they were under oath and subpoenaed and all that, so they had to. So I will link to that podcast that you talked about.
Right. It was with Jane Friedman. She was a
Oh yeah.
guest on it was from last fall.
Oh, and I should mention Jane Friedman too. So I printed these out and we can link to this too. She's always, every year, she updates these like publishing path sheets with these columns. She updates them. There's a few changes that happen every year. So we may reference this at different times. I mean, we're mainly looking at the second part, which is the hybrid slash self. This is a really good guide because it's got all of the like language in there that'll help you understand some of the things we're saying or some of the things that you might see online if you're researching, because it's jargon and lingo, like you might not be used to it, which is kind of why I started with some of the definitions too. Because I had somebody once say to me, well, no, wait, a hybrid author is this person who does both. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. That's a hybrid author, but that's not hybrid publishing. And then like we all got that. And then there's the crazy thing where if you say independent publishing, then you're supposed to call traditional publishing legacy publishing. And I'm like, well, I'm not quite there yet. I don't get to call it legacy publishing, but I feel like we're moving down that path.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I was listening to this podcast and actually his claim was, the publishing and the traditional publishing is turning more into the vanity side, but that wasn't my quote. That was Thomas Olmsted. So,
He
it's
sounds
just different. It's in a
interesting. I
everything's
got
changing.
I got to listen to him. Awesome.
Yeah.
So you mentioned writer beware. Yes, crucial, 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 crucial to know that website. The other place that I like to go when I'm just like, I get questions from people sometimes and they'll say, hey, I got this offer from this company or there's a bid or whatever. What do you know about this company? I usually go over to the Alliance for Independent Authors, Ally, and they have a nice list of services where they give people like, or give companies ratings. And you should be able to access that without membership. I believe that's one of their, before the paywall kind of thing. You don't have to be a member to see that list. And I think that there's a lot of authors that are independent like us who are very, very pleased with being able to control their path forward, do exactly what they want to do, like with their covers or their interiors or their content. But that also doesn't negate that you got to have a good product. And we're going to talk about that in one of our episodes about making sure that you're really ready to publish. And that is something that is a little tricky in the indie world because you don't have all those gatekeepers telling you are ready. You have to actually have those people, you have to hire those people, or you have to have those people in your circle of beta readers or critique partners or editors.
And
Yeah.
to that point, I have found a huge benefit from obviously, working with you and some of the other experts in the Wisconsin area, but also with the Wisconsin Writers Association. For $35 a year, you get access to classes, monthly meetings, the conference, the Creative Wisconsin Magazine, ability to submit, the Jade Ring contest. That group offers so much for a very minimum annual
It's
membership fee.
it's ridiculously low, actually, when you
Yes.
think about the services that you get.
So if you're looking, if you are looking for an accessible group that can offer a lot to you for a minimum dollar.
Mhm.
Check it out. I'm taking Laurie Shear's writing class for 6 weeks, for the next 6 weeks or so. Wonderful chance to get beta readers right there and
That's right.
really see where your work is going, and you get a variety of people looking at your manuscript so that you get different points of view. And believe me, it's so easy to overlook things that you think seems clear, but somebody else can go, wait a minute, I don't understand this. Really
Right.
valuable information from a group that's regional. You can find maybe somebody near you who you can meet up with for coffee and discuss writing. I mean, there's just many ways for you and for a minimal cost to improve your work,
And
before
it's a
you get to the
really,
point of publishing.
and that's a really good place to start. So thanks for doing that, because for like context on this journey, if you are coming in to this podcast and listening to us and you've just started writing, for instance, you may not know about all these wonderful groups you could join. There's some that are specific to the type of writing that you might be doing. Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators is a really good place to start as well. They have in-person and online webinars, and then there's also like things kind of called like listservs or forums, right? Where you can throw a question out there and discuss something. Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, the Wisconsin region, that's how I got my critique group way back, like more than a decade ago. The very first people who got to like look at my writing and offer feedback, and helpful feedback that, this, like you say, this isn't quite right, or I don't really understand this, or this is really good, more like this, keep going here, because you don't know. And especially if you're coming at this from a, brand new like writer perspective, like maybe you did a lot of professional writing, nonfiction writing or something, and now you're switching gears. But either way, those assets are super important to have. And like Sisters in Crime is really good if you're writing in the, crime fiction, mystery, suspense, thriller. There's all kinds of organizations out there. And
All
if
kinds of them. And if you're looking for a list, go on the WWA website and look at the groups, and you'll see, I think we got 3 pages now of
group,
regional groups for you to consider. So,
and then if
there's
you're
so
not,
many.
I mean, we're based in Wisconsin in the Midwest, so we're very Midwest centric because it's what we know the very, very best. But all these groups have chapters and, regional like groups across the nation, across the world. So if you're finding us from beyond the Midwest, from outside the Midwest, great, welcome. We may talk a lot about Midwest stuff, but that doesn't mean that those sort of groups aren't available to you where you live.
Right. The point is reach out to a local group, find some readers you can work with, right? And maybe the first one isn't going to be the one that works. You might have to switch it up a little bit, and then learn formatting. If you're really focused on getting to that published book and having it in your hand, start off with I work in Scrivener. Pick a platform that is going to work for you. So it's a traditional manuscript format. I can't emphasize that enough. Learn the formatting rules so that when you do get to the point where you're ready to publish, or send it off to an editor, you have that traditionally formatted manuscript, because that is important. I know there are different formats these days, say, for example, for memoir. And if you're going that road, great, but please learn the rules first and then go break them if you're
Exactly.
going to with your
Exactly.
format.
That is actually one of the key things that I got taught so early on. I don't even remember what year it was, but it was like, sure, you can break the rules, but you better know that you're breaking the rules so that when someone says, like, say, an editor, professional editor is
Yes.
like, you shouldn't be doing this thing that you're doing. And you're like, oh, I'm doing that on purpose because I want this person to sound this way, or this character, or, you want something to sound more stilted because of, the character or the storyline. There's reasons for it. So you have to actually prove what you're talking about.
Exactly. And then the other thing is, just accept the fact down the road you're going to need an editor.
So I don't think it even matters like where you are in your journey. I imagine that there are all kinds of people that are international bestsellers, the very big, big, big names, who have an editor who looks over all their stuff and corrects things, right?
Lee
So
Child talks about, if you listen to Lee Child's class on the BBC Maestro, his class about writing thrillers or writing books, he had an editor all along who
yes,
he would argue with, and I'm
yes.
sure it was good-natured banter, I'm sure, but he had an editor. If Lee Child needs one, so do you.
That's right. That's right. Like you're saying, your manuscript has to be professional, right? So that's the one thing that I get upset about, and I also stress with people that, since I'm in this world of indie authors, I often say is you owe it to the rest of us to make sure your manuscript is as good as it can be before you put it out there. And I think the quality of manuscripts in the indie world is top notch. For the most part, we all run into some stinkers once in a while that should have done another couple rounds of editing. We could probably go down a rabbit hole on a whole episode on AI produced crap that's out there that is, filtering through. But who takes care of that in the end? Both of those things when a manuscript's not ready and it's, an author who's done their best, but they really should have done a little more, due diligence with it. Or the AI, the readers, because then their bad reviews start coming in. Bad reviews protect then the other book buyers from making a mistake and whatever. So it's an interesting thing that eventually it circles back and that info is clear, that this book should have had more time. But you owe it to yourself. You've done all this work. You go and learn your craft and you write, and you edit, and you get other eyes on it, but you owe it to yourself to make sure that it's really ready. I know I thought my first manuscript way back more than a decade ago, gosh, more than 15 years ago. We're in 2025, yikes. Anyway, more than 15 years ago, I thought it was ready long before it was ready. And I then set it aside, kind of let it, I always say, let it marinate. It was like, and I had it all printed out, because I edit on real paper, not on my screen. And I went back to it and I was like, yep. And it was too long, way too long, way too long. And did some really, deep editing on it. And I had help and I had professional help. I had ha ha ha. Anyway, I had
no problem if you need professional help. I recommend it, in fact, if you feel you need it.
And I had a really good editing help. And even now I look at that book and I'm writing the fourth book in that series, and I'm going to do new covers, and I'm going to go through and do another full edit on all the books in that series.
Good for you. I'm going to do, I'm going to update. I'm going to do the same when I finally get to Model Rescue, the fourth book in the Backyard Model Mysteries.
Can't wait for that one.
The fun cover with the, with the foil edges, and give me some glam and some glitter.
And that is the one thing that we could talk about too. And we'll talk about pathways and some of that, eventually in a future episode. We'll talk more about like the nitty gritty, step one, ISBN, step two, all of that. We'll talk about that in a future episode. But the one thing that, most of us are going to do is we're going to do print on demand with our books, meaning we're not going to do offset printing and have then, needing a distributor or warehousing or putting them in our house, these massive boxes of books. We're going to use the print on demand systems that exist out there. The two biggest ones are Ingram Spark, and KDP Publishing, Kindle Direct Publishing. It says Kindle in the name, but it's for print as well. And you can do hardcover of certain sizes. You can do paperback of many different sizes, but you're never going to get those foil, like you're not going to get embossing or foil edges or any of the fancy stuff. There are other services out there, and we should probably research those so that people know where they can go for those special, like short print runs if you want to do something super special. I have a hardcover of my middle grade book, which I'd not done a hardcover before. And it turned out really nice.
Turned out beautifully.
And I have a hardcover that comes out from Ingram, and I have a hardcover that comes out from Amazon. This is the Ingram one. This is as fancy as I've gotten, but I do look at other people's books and I go, ooh, spot gloss, embossing,
right? It's calling me.
I know.
All of those things.
It is. And that would be like a true like vanity thing, because that's just for like, special people and for special sales. Who I think of when you mention that? Now, she's traditionally published, but Maggie Stiefvater, who's got amazing stories out, she's also an artist. And so she does something special for her local bookshop. And this is a complete aside, everyone. I just am a huge fan of hers. And she'll take, I forget how many hardcover books that she gives to this bookstore, and they sell them for a lot more than they're worth, because she does original art in each one.
Oh my goodness.
And on the front, like the front end paper. Yeah. Or like front paper, whatever it's called. You know what I mean?
That's, they call your bookshelf book wealth, right? You can
Book
show off
well.
your book wealth in your bookshelf, and
I know
that is true book wealth to have that.
it is. So they're huge fans of hers, and then she's supporting her local bookstore, who
Yeah.
then makes the extra money, and she just does this for free. And once in a while, she'll show a little video of the stacks of books near her, where she's like,
Oh, wow.
doing the drawings and them, whatever. So I digress. But hey, shout out Maggie Stiefvater. Woo. We talk about readiness. Are you ready? Well, your manuscript. Great. You got to have your manuscript ready. But we also should talk about you being ready as an author to be visible to the public as an author. And, that's your online presence. And if you're coming to this from a different kind of career area, you may not have a website. You may not even hang out much on social media as an author. So this is an important step as you are getting ready to publish. You're doing all these other things, and I'm adding one more thing to your list, right? But you need to make sure that you start to think about that stuff, because you want to build those audiences up before your publication date. So we're talking long months in advance kind of thing, how long, I should ask, when did you first have an author website, and how long before your first book came out do you think you had that author website?
That's a very good question. It was probably 12 months before my first mystery came out. And, don't get overwhelmed with the idea of having a website and, oh my gosh, I got to be on all the platforms. No, you don't.
No,
A
no, you don't.
three-page website is fine.
Mhm.
With an email sign up is fine. And then pick one. Pick one that you might enjoy. If you like Facebook, go on Facebook. If you
Yes.
like Instagram, try it. TikTok is a little bit in a flux right now, and that
Yeah, that's right.
I'd probably wait on that one, even though it's super fun. Don't get yourself overwhelmed. A three-page website and one presence on a social platform is fine for now. I would recommend, and then go join your group,
Yes.
because you'll get so much more information from people in your group who might already be a little farther in the process. Just try that. Start there and then listen to podcasts while you're taking your daily walk or your drive into work or something. I recommend, author media, novel marketing. Try a couple of them and you'll learn so much information. If you have chosen, look, I'm going to go the indie route for a variety of reasons. I don't care to go to the traditional query process. You can start today. You can start today. You don't need your website today. Okay, but reach out to a group, get yourself organized. I recommend a planner. I haven't found the perfect author planner yet, and I may create it. I'm actually pondering that, but you can start today. You can take control of your process, take control of your manuscript. You can write 250 words a day, 5 days a week, and in a year, you'll have a manuscript. You can do that. So
Right.
this is accessible to you, and I want to make sure you understand you can open those doors. You don't have to overthink about it, and you have a podcast like ours to help guide you.
Right, right. And there's a lot of other places, resources, like you're mentioning, the different groups or podcasts. So I always tell people, make sure, I mean, it really, it varies for everyone, which social media you want, like you say, which one you want to really hang out on. But I just point everyone to the one I like the most. So I
Yes.
say, hey, I'm on these, but if you want the most recent stuff, come over here. Usually it's Facebook. And I kind of tandem Facebook and Instagram, because through Meta, you can post,
Yep.
the same things. So I have different people though that react always over on Instagram, and other people who only react on Facebook, because that's where they like to hang out. And
Right.
I didn't disable my like Twitter X thing at all. I just left it in place. But my pinned post there says, hey, I don't hang out here very much. Find me on Substack for my main content, or here's my website, or here's my Facebook and Instagram handles. So like, come on over there if you want the updated stuff. But then if somebody looks for me there, they don't just see some old post from like a year ago, and it makes it look like I've fallen off the edge of the earth or something. I completely agree. And then what I was going to say, sort of piggybacking on your idea of like finding your people in your groups, you can within on those platforms, you can often find then really good content. You write middle grade. There's a really good middle grade writing group inside Facebook that they post questions. People post questions for all levels and spots in that journey, where you might be. People throw their book covers up. Hey, react to this book cover. Am I on the right track for this age group? And everyone's very kind, and they pop in feedback, and it's helpful.
There,
Yeah.
and you're right, most people are kind. Some people aren't. Sometimes you're going to get in a group and you're going to get maybe somebody whose feedback just doesn't work for you. Let's just put it that way. Not all personalities are made for one another. Don't be intimidated. Don't get upset. Don't think you're going to change that person. As Mel Robbins says, she just let them.
I love Mel Robbins.
Let them have their whatever they want to read. It's not for you to fix it. Go find a different group.
Yep.
Or just, just say, look, so-and-so, you don't need to work on, you hang out there. I'm going to be here. I'm okay.
Right.
Don't be intimidated because it's too easy. This journey is filled with rejection. It is filled with difficulty. It is an uphill journey. Don't be intimidated.
Yes.
Not every avenue is going to work out for you, and that's okay.
Well, and my critique groups have been wonderful. Everyone's always been kind, and that's a little different because you're not on social. These are people that you interact with. Mine have all been mostly online, like not in person. And sometimes someone in a critique group just maybe doesn't get your humor, but everybody else does, right? So they're like, I don't get it, and you're like, oh, shoot, did this fall flat? And then you realize the feedback from everyone else is contrary to that one, critique. So you have to also know yourself, and you also have to get, the input that you're getting, because you can't run around like the too many cooks in the kitchen kind of thing, trying to please everybody. I have found some of those groups are really, really nice. And especially as I've gotten into more technical areas too, like Amazon ads or different things like that, that are very technical, and then things change. And then we're all like, I don't understand what just happened with the dashboard. Like there's lots of good help out there.
There's a lot of, speaking of that, if you're starting this journey, I would recommend following you for sure because of your marketing expertise. And then there's also a person on I think she's on Facebook too, but for sure on Instagram. It's called Your Creative Media by Leslie Saintly. And she's got marketing your book, how to create a best-selling book ad on Canva, and Facebook and Instagram ads for authors. Super simple. They're very short, easy to read. And, she's giving information to authors every single day on Instagram. And as you're writing, you can learn more about marketing very easily digestible information every single day. And it kind of gets you into that groove of understanding, okay, down the road, I'm going to have to listen to this and think about this, but it's a way to dip your toe in the water.
That's true. And I think it helps. Although, I think if you're very new to this, you could feel bombarded by information. Like, too much stuff. I can't and you're still working on your manuscript or whatever. So you really need to put the blinders on.
Put the blinders on.
And what you're saying is, the stuff is out there. You establish, put your website up. Maybe you just like you say, something simple so that you've got a presence out there. You can start to build your audience. And you can also start to build your audiences on whichever social media platform makes the most sense for you. And then later on, you finesse those to kind of match your book when you start to make decisions about what the cover is going to be like, and you start to do some like branding decisions, on color scheme or fonts. And none of that matters right away. But I get the question sometimes about mailing lists. And like, do I really need to have a mailing list? Like, I don't even have an audience. Like, what would I send out? And I'm like, okay, look, we know, and this whole TikTok thing right now. So this is January of 2025, and TikTok is like on the chopping block, right? Whether we're going to still have access to it or not have access to it in the United States and whatever. So all those creative folks who have built these beautiful audiences and revenue stream, right, off of TikTok, they're in limbo. They don't know what's going to happen. And now that's a governmental thing, but also TikTok can change their terms of service at any time. You don't ever really own access to that audience. You don't own your Instagram list of followers or your ex Twitter folks or your Facebook, followers. That's the thing that keeps me always recommending an email list where you tell people, please subscribe. And then you tell them what you're going to send them. So maybe it's only going to be a quarterly update in the beginning about your writing process, something very simple, and that list will grow. I'm over on Substack with that now, and my list grows, and people pop in and out. And I really like it over there, but some people may just want like a MailChimp thing, and that works out fine too. But this is all kind of part of building your website where
Right.
you put that little subscriber thing. And we've all seen them. Sometimes we don't even notice them anymore. We're so used to
Right.
them.
To wrap up our first podcast of 2025, we walked you through a couple simple things, which would be consider a 3-page website, very simple. Pick the platform of your choice that you can get along with and you enjoy. Consider starting to collect emails and get your 250 words a day down, somewhere, hopefully on a formatted manuscript.
And 5, join groups.
Join groups.
Find the supportive group for the type of writing that you do, and that's going to set you up for the rest of the year as you move forward in receiving information from people who are in the know and hopefully supportive of your journey. So
right, and keep it affordable. Don't think right now you have to go out and spend a lot of money, because you don't.
No, you don't. So what we're going to talk about next time is we're going to talk more about the process of independent publishing, what hybrid publishing means, and then later on we're going to move through the real like nitty-gritty of the steps and eventually to marketing. And I think we'll probably split that into 2 and maybe do pre-launch marketing. What does that look like? The promotions that you might consider and how to establish yourself in that space. And then also after your book's out, what does the marketing kind of look like? What can it look like? So the neat thing about independent publishing, everyone, is you get to decide what this all looks like for you and your time. And I think that's the special part. I like being in control. I guess I'm a little bit of a control freak.
Well, as we talked earlier, being an independently published author to me is you're choosing yourself. You've
Yeah.
chosen to take control of your journey. So, it's about you. It's about what you want to put on the page and what you want to introduce to readers. And don't worry about the rest of it. Traditional publishing is what it is. It's got its place. People love it. They have their moments with it. But you've chosen yourself, and this is the journey you're on.
Yes, this is a valid path to get your
Yes.
book in the hands of readers. And what's interesting is that anybody who tells you otherwise does not acknowledge the fact that there are many traditional publishing companies who also have an independent or self-publishing services arm. So it's kind of a funny criticism because it's not a true criticism of this path. So more power to us.
More power to us. And we love you, California.
Yeah, I
We
know.
love you. And our hearts are with you.
All right, we'll see you next time, and we will continue this fun podcast on the independent publishing path.
Right.
All right, take care.